Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Wallace. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We got a good one for you, as always. Today we're talking about really what feels like a deja vu type scenario where just May 5th, we were talking about the tragic shooting of Ahmaud Arbery in southern Georgia. Today we're talking about another tragic situation, the death of George Flynn at the hands of the Minneapolis Police Department there in Minnesota, where what happened was, as four cops and a crowd of people stood around, the African-American man was crushed to death by white cops as literally, as he was crying out, "I can't breathe," he was killed. We're going to get more into it. It's an awful, awful situation. Also, new report by David Sirota says that Andrew Cuomo gave immunity to nursing home executives after big donations. And we know what's been going on in those homes in the wake of the COVID-19 crisis. Also, a really disturbing report where local DB stations have been roasted for shamelessly passing off Amazon scripted propaganda as news. It's really some disturbing stuff and shows the immense power and the evilness of Amazon. But first, we talk about this awful situation by George Floyd here. He was a 46-year-old African-American man. He died after being handcuffed and pinned to the ground by a police officer's knee on Monday. So pretty much I saw some of the video. It was just an absolutely horrific scene. It's a very, very disturbing video. So I don't recommend, if you want to watch it, that's perfectly fine. But just be warned, it's a very, very disturbing video. So pretty much what happened here was, you may be able to tell, or you may have heard already, he was arrested, and there was according to some new video released, there was no sign that this guy was resisting arrest, but he was brought down to the ground, and he, despite all of the people being like, let this guy up, and George Floyd himself saying, George Floyd himself saying, I can't breathe. You're going to kill me. He was saying, you're going to kill me. And what did the police officers do? He just kept the knee down on his neck as he just cried out, "Everything hurts. Like this, I'm gonna die. Please let me go. Like please." Nothing of the sort happened, and I think at one point, sometime soon thereafter, he was killed. And he died, and he was killed by the Minneapolis police. I don't think there's any way you can deny that. So the explosive footage was recorded by a bystander and shared widely on social media early Tuesday, incited community outrage, a really nationwide outrage, in an FBI civil rights investigation and the firing of the officer and three colleagues who were also at the scene. Floyd's relatives told CNN on Tuesday night the officers should be charged with murder. They treated him worse than they treat animals. They took a life. They deserve a life. And I think they deserve a life. Like, that's incredibly, I think, potent and incredibly fair. Like, these are people who are supposed to protect and serve. And we see this happening. And we'll take a look at the real relationship that not just these people, and it's not just the fact that there's some bad cops. Like you gotta give some of the cops there are some bad cops. I'm sure there are good cops, people who have good hearts as cops, but there is a big problem with the institution of policing, especially in cities and especially in African American, high density African American areas, like places where a lot of black people live. Like we've seen that come time and time again. They treated him worse than they treat animals. That's what his brother said. Philanese Floyd. Floyd was a resident of St. Louis Park, Minnesota, which is a Minneapolis suburb. And he was pronounced dead at 9:25 p.m. on Monday at Hennepin County Medical Center, according to the medical examiner. Giovanni Thernstrom, who employed Floyd as a bouncer at his restaurant Conga Latin Bistro, said in an interview on Tuesday he couldn't believe what he saw on video. It's hard to believe that an officer would do that, Mr. Thernstrom, who's also Mr. Floyd's landlord, said. He wasn't a threat to justify excessive force used on him, and there's a video, I think, from that restaurant that shows, again, he was not resisting arrest in any shape or form. Like, he was completely justified, I think, to do what he did. And Thunstrom said that Floyd had become a friend during the 5 years that he worked for him and the 4 years that he rented a duplex unit from him in St. Louis Park. No one has nothing bad to say about him. They're all shocked he's dead. He never caused a fight or was rude to people. And it's just awful, awful, awful situation. And it's just such a disturbing trend. Like, even during this COVID lockdown, when people are obviously supposed to be inside, like, we still see just awful stuff like this. And of course, this being America, there were mass shootings that took place. I think one in a military base. Because why not, right? Like, this is America. This is it's what we get. But yeah, Thernstrom said that the last time he had heard from Floyd was when he paid his rent last week and told him that he was looking for a job. The restaurant where Floyd worked has been closed to on-site dining since March because of the pandemic. I hope something changes because I lost a friend, says Thunstrom. The original police report said Floyd had resisted arrest. And this is just the absolute, like, I talked about this yesterday, but the fact that all these politicians, especially Democratic politicians, for example, Amy Klobuchar, come out and saying, we need to find out more about this officer-involved shooting. Like the next time if I become a police officer and this absurd turn of phrase, it's just like so dystopian. It's Orwellian. It's can an officer just like walk into a store, take something out without paying for it, and just be like, yeah, this was an officer-involved item removal from a store. We are tactically ascertaining this item here, search. Like, talking like in the cop BS speak, like the operational speak that they always like to do. Like that is the kind of, it's really an example of the kind of standard that we hold them to because of the glorification and all this kind of like cop propaganda that's been put out, that like we cannot question them in any way. Like, we can't insult any cops in any way, otherwise we are disrespecting them. No, when they're coming in and murdering members of the communities that they're supposed to serve, then I think it's time to start questioning a lot. Like, this is a trend that we have seen happen. Not every story gets nationwide published. Like, it's like, used to, like, oh, this only happens few and far between, because not a lot of the videos are released. Like, it doesn't happen, and there are tons of infrastructure and a lot of politicians that are very, very afraid of very, very powerful police groups that will come in and say that, yes, we have to keep this under wraps. And, like, for example, we saw Rahm Emanuel. He's out there now advising Joe Biden, the Democratic nominee. And I'm kind of going to go off on the tangent for this because it's kind of related. But, you know, if you've been any way involved in the 2020 Democratic primary discourse, all we've heard about is how, Bernie's advisors, David Sirota, Nina Turner, they're so toxic. They're so out of hand. Well, let's take a look at who Joe Biden has advising him. Let's see. Larry Summers, one of the biggest factors in the crash of the economy and one of the people who screwed up the bailout process the most. That's who's advising this FDR-esque, progressive Democratic nominee. That is who is advising him. And then, who else? Anita Dunn, someone who did press work and defended Harvey Weinstein in the wake of the Me Too allegations, and from what we can tell, played a pretty big role in quashing the allegations against Tara Reid, because she was, in fact, on the board of Time's Up, laughably, as these Tara Reid allegations came out. And also what we have is the Rahm Emanuel, the former mayor of Chicago, former Obama chief of staff, who, during his time as mayor of Chicago, was instrumental in covering up the Laquan McDonald shooting to A, help the police department, and B, help his own reelection. So that's what we have here very, very clearly. And it's like, it really shows you, it really does show you the fact that there is just an incredible amount of just double dealing here, and just the fact that Joe Biden is surrounding himself with people, like, he can make as many BS task forces as he wants. He can really do as much as he wants with that. Like, that's all fine and well and good. But the fact is, the real fact of the matter is, it is very, very hard to, I think, make a case that he has done anything substantive of reaching out of any of the old Bernie Sanders base and really done any kind of way of, like, actually pretending like they care about him and really want to win the election. Like, the young people have been completely ignored. What the Democratic Party is trying to do is finally complete the complete the process that Hillary Clinton started, and a lot of the candidates in the 2018 midterms followed, which was kicking the working class out of any political coalition, making them really politically homeless because they aren't really seeming to gravitate too much towards the Republican Party. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to really secure up the people who are turned off by Trump in the $200,000 to $400,000 income range, get those suburban voters, people who like are kind of like in that kind of socioeconomic, like suburban, white, affluent suburbanites. That is who they want to make their party. And they've said that very clearly. That ever since 2016, that has been their strategy, and it's going to be really the perfect way for them to pursue the kind of politics that they want to pursue. They don't want to do any kind of thing that is bold. They don't want to rock any kind of boats. They want to just keep things exactly the way they are, and that's what the Democratic Party is now. It's just that is what it is, and they have clearly wanted to do it for a long time, and that is what they seem like that they want to do. So. Yeah, I did kind of get off on a little bit of a digression here, but I do want to talk here about this original police report that Floyd said. Mr. Floyd, the arrest of Mr. Floyd took place on Monday evening. The Minneapolis Police Department said in a statement the officers had responded to a call about a man suspected of forgery. The police said the man was found sitting on top of a blue car and appeared to be under the influence. Yeah, okay. He was ordered to step out from his car, the department statement said. After he got out, he physically resisted the officers. Officers were able to get the suspect into handcuffs and noted he appeared to be suffering medical distress. Yeah, he was suffering a medical distress. Like, could it be the fact that the officer had his knee on his neck? Like, that is the most dystopian, like phrasing of it at all. Like, I punch you, your nose is bleeding. And it's like, oh, he's suffering a medical distress. He just got distressed medically for no reason. Like, absolutely outrageous stuff. On Tuesday morning, without referring to the video recorded by a bystander, the police updated the statement titled, "Man Dies After Medical Incident During Police Interaction." Like, how are we supposed to respect cops after this? How are we supposed to treat people who do this as any kind of human, like this is any kind of, like, this is not the way humans behave. Like, this is not the way normal, ethical people with any kind of normal standard would behave. Because, like, a man dies after a medical incident during police interaction. You think that reading that, like, he had some kind of, like, stroke or kind of asthma attack or something like that, or kind of thing that caused him to die independent of the police. But no, the police literally crushed the life out of him through their own force. They kneeled on his neck while he was dying, and that's what happened. Like, that is unquestionably what happened there. And it's not a kind of question of this is just such a deceitful, lying way to phrase it. It's just so angry because this man is dead. This man is dead. Like, yeah. So if you don't, just put this on mute for the next, because if you don't want to hear it, like, play a little bit of this here, but put on mute for a little bit. This is kind of the audio.
One of my homies died. I'm about to die this thing. Relax. Man, I can't breathe my face. Just get up.
That guy you hear, like, kind of, like, really kind of grasping and saying, he's literally saying, I can't breathe. Please, I can't breathe. I'm about to die. The video was recorded in Minneapolis on Monday. It shows that after a few minutes, the man lying face down in the street with his hands cuffed behind his back becomes silent and motionless. The officer continues to pin the man to the pavement with his knees. Like, he cries out for help, and then a few minutes later he stops, and the officer still has his knee on his neck. Like, this is just devilish. There's no other way to. It's just absolutely awful. Like, this is just. There's no other way to put it. And of course, obviously, the community really very upset. As Minneapolis police officers dressed up in riot gear had a fun time getting up in their little costumes. The police officers dressed up in riot gear fired rubber bullets, tear gas,